Imagine losing the love of your life. The father of your 3 children. He dies suddenly in the middle of the night, leaving your world completely shattered. How do you cope? For Kouri Richins, a suburban mother from Utah, the answer was to write a children's book. Just months after her husband Eric's tragic passing, Kouri self-published a heavily illustrated book titled Are You With Me? It featured her own children on the cover. She went on local television, sitting under the studio lights, dabbing her eyes as she talked about the devastating reality of sudden grief. She played the part of the heartbroken, resilient widow to absolute perfection. But behind the television cameras, the local police were quietly unraveling a digital and financial trail that proved her tears were entirely fake. Welcome back to Heartbreak Homicide Solved. Hit that subscribe button, because today we are tearing apart one of the most twisted, audacious Black Widow cases in American history. Kouri Richins wasn't just an author. She wasn't just a grieving widow. She was a woman who slipped 5 times the lethal dose of illicit fentanyl into her husband's cocktail, watched him die, and then checked memes on her phone while his body was wheeled out the front door. And in March of 2026, the justice system finally caught up to her. This is the anatomy of a multi-million-dollar murder. Buckle up. To the outside world, Kouri and Eric Richins were living the ultimate Utah dream. Eric was a beloved, hardworking father. He ran a highly successful stonemasonry business and had amassed an estate worth over $4 million. Kouri was a real estate agent, flipping high-end houses and projecting an image of massive wealth and success. But Kouri's entire life was an illusion. Her real estate business wasn't booming. It was a complete, imploding house of cards. Forensic accountants dug into Kouri's private ledgers, and what they found was staggering. Behind closed doors, Kouri was drowning in a suffocating $4.5 million of debt. She had overdrafted her bank accounts hundreds of times. She owed money to the IRS. She owed money to her husband. She was actively juggling loans from over 20 different private lenders. She was borrowing money just to pay the interest on other borrowed money. The math was apocalyptic. At the time of Eric's death, Kouri was paying roughly $2,100 a day just in interest on her hard money loans. She was desperate. She was cornered. And she needed cash immediately. So why not just divorce Eric and take half? Because Eric was smart. Before they got married, Eric insisted on a prenuptial agreement. The terms were ironclad. If Kouri filed for divorce, she would walk away with absolutely nothing. No houses. No millions. Just her crushing mountain of debt. But if Eric died? Kouri falsely believed that as his widow, she would bypass the prenup and inherit his entire $4 million estate. But she didn't stop there. In secret, without Eric's knowledge or consent, she began taking out multiple life insurance policies on his life. If his heart stopped beating, she stood to collect roughly $2 million in tax-free payouts. Divorce meant she was broke. Death meant she was a multimillionaire. If the crushing financial pressure wasn't enough of a motive, there was another massive secret hiding in Kouri's phone. She was having a torrid affair. Kouri had started seeing a handyman named Josh Grossman. But this wasn't just a casual fling. Kouri was obsessed. She was buying him trucks. She was planning their entire future together. Investigators recovered text messages between the two that read like a bad romance novel. She texted him fantasies about how perfect their life would be together. She explicitly messaged him saying, "If I were divorced right now and asked you to marry me tomorrow, you would." She constantly texted about how amazing everything could be if Eric would just go away. The walls were closing in. The debt collectors were calling. The secret lover was waiting. It was time for Eric to go away. February 14, 2022. Valentine's Day. Kouri decided to play the role of the loving wife. She picked up a sandwich from a local diner and left it for Eric to eat. It seemed like a sweet, romantic gesture. But shortly after taking a few bites of that sandwich, Eric's body went into absolute shock. He violently broke out in hives. His throat began to close. He was struggling for air, desperately reaching for his EpiPen, and eventually passed out. Eric survived the ordeal. But he wasn't stupid. He knew his body, and he knew his wife. He immediately suspected that Kouri had tried to poison him. He didn't keep these suspicions to himself. He went to his friends and his family and issued a chilling, prophetic warning. "If I die, you need to look at her." Eric was so terrified of the woman sleeping next to him that he secretly met with attorneys. He changed his will. He altered his trust. He completely removed Kouri from his estate and left everything to his sister, specifically to protect his 3 young sons from their own mother. Eric knew a war was coming. But he didn't realize that Kouri was already reloading. Kouri realized that whatever she put in the Valentine's Day sandwich wasn't strong enough. She needed something that wouldn't leave room for survival. She needed military-grade poison. So, how does a suburban Utah mom buy illicit narcotics? She uses the help. Kouri reached out to her housekeeper, a woman named Carmen Lauber. At first, Kouri lied, claiming she had an investor who suffered from a back injury and needed some strong pain medication. But soon, the coded language dropped. Kouri sent a message asking her housekeeper to procure something highly specific. She asked for some of the Michael Jackson stuff. Everyone knows that Michael Jackson died from a lethal, medical-grade knockout drug. In the criminal underworld, asking for the Michael Jackson stuff means you want something that will put someone to sleep permanently. You can't commit a 21st century murder without leaving a digital footprint. In court, digital forensics expert Chris Katradimos laid out a devastating map. He tracked the exact GPS movements of the housekeeper's cell phone. He mapped it pinging right alongside the cell phone of a known drug supplier. They met at a Maverick gas station in Draper, Utah. It was a classic hand-to-hand transaction. $1,000 in cash was left sitting in a driveway. In exchange, Kouri received a batch of light blue pills. She had the weapon. Now, she just needed an excuse to celebrate. March 3, 2022. Kouri told Eric that she had finally closed a major real estate deal. To celebrate, she offered to make him a drink. She mixed him a Moscow Mule and brought it to him in their bedroom. Eric drank the cocktail. And this time, he didn't wake up. Kouri's official story to the police was that she gave him the drink, went to sleep in one of their children's bedrooms, and then returned to her own bedroom around 3 a.m. She claimed she found Eric completely unresponsive and cold to the touch. But the cell phone data tells a much darker, much more calculated story. According to the digital forensics, Kouri's phone was unlocked and active at 3:06 a.m. Over the next several minutes, the phone moved over 200 feet around the house. It was locked and unlocked multiple times. But she didn't dial 911 until 3:21 a.m. That is a 15-minute gap. For 15 agonizing minutes, she paced the house while her husband lay dead in their bed. Prosecutors argued this wasn't panic, this was the staging phase. This was a woman trying to get her story straight before the police arrived. At the trial, the defense desperately tried to spin this. They played the audio of her sobbing on the 911 call, dramatically telling the jury that this was the sound of a wife becoming a widow. But the prosecution had the receipts. They showed the jury exactly what that grieving widow was doing while the police were actively bagging her husband's body, while Eric was being zipped into a body bag. Kouri was standing in her home, looking at memes on her phone. She accessed a meme of a character wiping their face with cash. She looked at a meme of Donald Trump with the caption, "I'm really rich." She wasn't grieving. She was gloating. The sheer, icy callousness of Kouri Richins didn't stop when the sun came up. Eric's sister, Katie, rushed to the house the morning he died and collapsed in agony. Then, the unthinkable happened. While the coroner was actively wheeling Eric's body out the front door, Kouri went into full-blown business mode. Katie confronted Kouri, screaming, "You can't tell me you're going to close on the Midway mansion when my brother just died." Kouri's alleged response, delivered completely deadpan? "Yeah, the money went through." Later that exact same morning, less than 24 hours after she spiked her husband's drink with a lethal poison, Kouri hosted a celebratory brunch. The guest of honor? Her secret lover, Josh Grossman. You can lie to your family. You can lie to the police. But you cannot lie to a toxicologist, and you cannot hide from Google. At the trial, Dr. Brianna Peterson took the stand. She explained to the jury that a lethal dose of fentanyl can be as low as 3 nanograms per milliliter. When they tested Eric's blood, they found 15 nanograms per milliliter. He had 5 times the lethal limit coursing through his veins. To shut down the defense's wild theories that Eric was secretly an addict who accidentally overdosed, Dr. Peterson noted a specific chemical marker in his blood, acetylfentanyl. This proved the drug was an illicit, street-manufactured poison. And if the science wasn't enough to put her away, her own thumbs did the rest. Cyber investigators extracted the deleted search history from Kouri's iPhone. In the days leading up to and following the murder, Kouri Richins typed the following phrases into Google: "What is a lethal dose of fentanyl?" And perhaps the most arrogant search of all, "luxury prisons for the rich America." Kouri Richins thought she was the smartest person in the room. She thought writing a children's book would serve as the ultimate camouflage. But in March of 2026, the camouflage burned away. After weeks of grueling testimony, the jury retreated to the deliberation room. It took them less than 3 hours to see right through the widow's veil. Guilty. Guilty of aggravated murder. She is now facing a sentence of 25 years to life in a prison that will be far from luxurious. And in a final, brilliant stroke of poetic justice, the judge scheduled her official sentencing hearing for May 13th. The exact day that would have been Eric Richins' 44th birthday. Case closed.